crisis that you might find yourself in is when your child with special needs is either being suspended or expelled, or you've gotten notice that the school district wants to suspend or expel your child. Now, it's important to know that the area of the law surrounding discipline, especially if the discipline that's going to be imposed is a suspension for more than 10 consecutive school days, because that's the limit. The school district is within their rights up to 10 consecutive school days to suspend your child
within one school year.
Within 10 consecutive days.
Oh, okay.
So you could, in one school year, you could be suspended more than 10 days, but it can't be more 10 consecutive days. And the caveat is there are some cases that say if there's a pattern where the kid's in school for 3 days and then out for 8, in school for 3 days and out for 8, then that would trigger the obligations under the statute. But basically what the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, has very specific language about the restrictions and the protocols for how students who have IEPs or who are suspected of needing an IEP can be disciplined.
Right.
But within up to those 10 days, up to those 10 consecutive days, a school district is within their rights to suspend a child without triggering those procedures. They could elect to trigger those procedures as a good practice, but they're not required to.
Right.
But after 10 days, then we're looking at the procedures having to go into place. And, that's often when I get a phone call, is when a student who has a disability is up for expulsion or suspension. So the procedures are very complicated. But
Right.
in essence, what they mean is that a school district, once they want to take that extraordinary disciplinary action of going beyond the 10-day suspension or to an expulsion, the school district is required to convene something called a manifestation determination, which could be an entire law school course. It's so complicated, okay? And it gets changed all of the time. But in essence, what it means is the school district has an obligation to convene the team, including the parents, the IEP team, Individualized Education Program team, and ask the question, in essence, was the alleged misconduct a manifestation of the child's disability? So did the child's disability, was it their direct cause
Right.
because of the disability with that in the misconduct?
Right.
It's a very simple way of looking at a complicated issue.
Right, and this is a complicated issue, so let's try to simplify it. If you find yourself in a situation where you've just found out that your child has been suspended or expelled, beyond the 10 days, that's what you just talked about.
Right.
Let's talk about that they have been suspended and there's a pattern.
Right. Okay, so if there's a pattern, and again, the law isn't as clear on that issue about whether there's a pattern, if that triggers the manifestation determination. There are some cases that say that, but it's not as clear-cut as the language of the statute.
Right.
What you're seeing in a situation like that is where students' behavior is obviously interfering enough with their ability to access the education that they're being disciplined all the time. And so
Right.
when a parent tells me about a situation like that, I'm of course concerned about the underlying issue that is right on the table at that moment. What's
Right.
the misconduct and
Right.
is
What's
the
causing
student,
it to
what's
happen
causing it
so
But what's
often?
the bigger problem?
Right.
What's the bigger issue, okay? And so it's a red flag, as any other kind of constant misconduct or discipline should be, that something's not going well in school and perhaps the student needs more support. So the reason the IDA requires that school districts consider this is we know that for students who have disabilities, there are times when their disability runs up against the usual school rules or puts a student
Right.
in a position where their impulsivity or whatever
Right.
else is going on with the child's disability may make them more likely to violate a school rule. So it's one of those situations that can get tricky, and the reason it's a crisis, and what I would say to parents is if your child is up for expulsion, especially expulsion, and there are exceptions to the manifestation rule, and again, it's complex. If your child's up for an expulsion, I would be on the phone with a good special education attorney or advocate quickly. That doesn't mean you have to hire an attorney or advocate in the moment, but a kid being expelled from school is a huge deal. It may mean you're not going to college because you've been expelled for the year that you're
Right.
supposed to be here. It may really impact your long term because you have to answer questions when you apply to college about whether or not you've ever been expelled, et cetera. It can really impact a kid's future. And not to mention, even though the IDA requires that the school would still have to provide an appropriate program to the child, services to the child in certain circumstances, and again, then you get into state law and it's complex. Right. The bottom line is the stakes are pretty high now. I think you need to be getting some advice from somebody who knows this area of the law.
And minimally, they should be expecting an IEP meeting called a Manifestation Determination IEP meeting to be taking place.
At minimum, and what I would say is if you didn't even know what any of this was until you just heard it and you just get in the mail instead of even knowing that there's an expulsion up as a possibility or an extended suspension, if you get a notice for an IEP meeting that says that it's a manifestation determination, whoa, stop the presses. Something serious is happening here. They're laying the groundwork from the next step, which might be an expulsion.